You can think of a country's constitution as its operating system. It sets all the basic rules. But what happens when that system needs an update? Today, we're going to dive into how 4 major democracies, the US, India, Australia, and Germany, go about changing their most fundamental laws.
And that's really what this is all about, isn't it? A constitution, it's more than just paper. It captures a nation's identity, its core values, its soul, you could say. So the big question is, how do you change with the times without shattering the very foundation holding everything together? It's a puzzle every country has to solve.
And this puzzle leads to what's called the amendment paradox. Think about it. On one hand, you want your constitution to be a rock, something stable and supreme that protects everyone's rights from, say, the politics of the moment. But on the other hand, it also needs to be like a living tree, right? Able to grow and adapt to new technologies, to changing social values, all the things the founders could never have predicted. If it's too rigid, it'll just snap. But if it's too flexible, well then, it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay, so let's get into our first big question. What are the actual rules of the game? How do these countries mechanically go about amending their constitutions? Because as you'll see, the procedures they've chosen tell us a ton about their history and their political philosophies. First up, the United States. And its process, laid out in Article V, is famously difficult. An amendment has to get a 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress. And honestly, that's the easy part. After that, it has to be ratified by 3/4 of all the state legislatures. We're talking 38 out of 50 states have to agree. Because it's so rigid, only 27 amendments in over 230 years, it often falls to the Supreme Court to just reinterpret the existing words to fit modern life.
Now let's head over to India. Its chief architect, Dr. Ambedkar, described their approach as a middle path. The absolute key here is something called the special majority. It's not enough to get a 2/3 vote of the members who show up that day. You also need a majority of the total number of members in the House. This is a clever way to stop a small group from pushing through huge changes when attendance is low. And for any changes that affect the states, half of them have to agree too.
Australia, though, now their process is really one of a kind. After an amendment passes Parliament, it's not done. It has to go to a national referendum where everyone votes. And to pass, it needs what's called a double majority. That means a majority of all voters across the entire country have to say yes, and a majority of voters in at least 4 of the 6 states also have to say yes.
So what's the result of a system like that? Well, it's profound. That double majority is an incredibly high bar to clear. The Australian people have shown that they are very, very cautious guardians of their constitution. Just look at this number. In more than 120 years, only 8 amendments have ever passed, out of 44 that were put to a vote. It's wild.
And finally, we've got Germany. Their system relies completely on their elected representatives. Any change needs a huge 2/3 supermajority in both of their parliamentary houses. Now notice what's missing. There's no referendum. And this was a very deliberate choice born from the trauma of the Weimar Republic, where popular votes were actually used to legitimize the Nazi regime. Germany's system is built to force a broad, strong consensus among political parties for any kind of fundamental change.
So looking at all these different procedures, it naturally leads to our next question. Who actually holds the ultimate power to change the rules? This gets to the heart of the debate over what's called constituent power, the authority to create or change the Constitution itself. Is it the politicians? Is it the people directly? Or is it someone else? You can see a really stark contrast when you look at the role of the president. In the United States, the president has literally 0 formal role. An amendment goes from Congress straight to the states. The president can't sign it, and more importantly, they can't veto it. That was settled way back in 1798. But in India, it's the complete opposite. Once an amendment passes Parliament, the president is constitutionally required to sign it. It's not a choice, it's mandatory. This quote right here perfectly captures Australia's philosophy. The ultimate power, the final say, belongs directly to the people. It's the definition of popular sovereignty. It means the power to make or unmake the Constitution, that constituent power we were talking about, lies with the citizens themselves through that mandatory referendum. And here again, you see that echo of history shaping Germany's constitution. They specifically rejected the referendum idea. They put their trust not in direct democracy for these big questions, but in their representative democracy. The thinking is that a supermajority of elected officials who can debate and deliberate is a much better safeguard against populist manipulation than a simple yes or no vote from the public.
Okay, so all of this builds to what might be the most profound question of them all.
Is everything up for grabs, or are some parts of a constitution so fundamental, so central to what a nation is, that they're just off limits? Can you have unbreakable rules?
And the answer, in some places, is yes. But they get there in two totally different ways. See, they put limits on the government's power to amend. Germany's constitution literally has what's called an eternity clause that spells out exactly what can never be changed. India, on the other hand, developed the basic structure doctrine. It's not actually written in their constitution. It was created by their Supreme Court, which basically said Parliament can't use its amendment power to destroy the Constitution's fundamental identity.
So what does Germany's eternity clause protect? Well, things like its federal system, the absolute inviolability of human dignity, and core principles like democracy and the rule of law. And then there's this, the ultimate failsafe. Article 20 explicitly gives all Germans the right to resist anyone trying to tear down this constitutional order. It is a backstop against tyranny written directly from the lessons of their history. India's story is incredible. It's like a dramatic tug-of-war played out in the courtroom. For decades, Parliament and the Supreme Court fought over the limits of amendment power. It went back and forth from Parliament can change anything to no, you can't touch fundamental rights. It all came to a head in the famous 1973 Keshavalanda Bharti case, where the court finally created the basic structure doctrine. It was a landmark ruling that said, yes, Parliament's power to amend is huge, but it does not extend to destroying the Constitution's core features.
So after that whirlwind tour, let's try and pull it all together. Why do all these complicated rules matter so much? Well, because the process a nation chooses for changing its constitution, it's a mirror. It reflects a country's deepest values about power, about democracy, and about its own identity.
This chart does a brilliant job of summarizing the key takeaways. Just look at the contrasts. Australia mandates a referendum. Germany prohibits it. The US president has no role. In India, their role is mandatory. And look at the unamendable parts. Germany has its explicit eternity clause. India has its court-made basic structure. And even the US has one nearly untouchable rule, that no state can lose its equal vote in the Senate without its own permission. Each column is just a different answer to that fundamental question of how a nation chooses to evolve.
And that really leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Who is the ultimate guardian of a constitution? Is it the people voting in a referendum? Is it the parliament acting with a massive majority? Or is it the courts interpreting the law? Each country we've looked at has picked a different guardian, and as we've seen, there's no single easy answer.